Hello and welcome you all for this intellADAPT webinar series. And my name is Dr. Nish Sonwalkar and I will be presenting this webinar titled New Frontiers in Adaptive Learning. So we will begin with the idea today that there is an enormous amount of new technology coming through, and that technology is now leading to many new paradigms that can lead to, to adaptive learning. So the agenda today that I have put together for you is number one, overview, different kinds of adaptive learning systems that have been coming through in the market as well as in the academia, and then talk about the new frontiers in learning and what has happened in terms of technological enhancements and technological changes in the world, and how this new technology is now going to impact what we do. That's one. And then we will also look at brain-based adaptive learning system, and then pedagogical framework for creating some of these adaptive learning, adaptive teaching and learning. And then we are going to go into the new frontiers and maybe talk a little bit about some of the case studies. So let's talk about some educational statistics. We know that education is $1 trillion market, and that's why there, especially in the United States, it's about $1.3 trillion market per year, including K-12, including higher education, including corporate education. But if you just look at the higher education, we know the statistics is that the large number of students, only 31.2% are high school completion. So there's large amount of millions of students who are not able to get into higher education, and that affects their earning potential. So if you look at this, is the correlation between your attainment, academic attainment, and the earning. And that's why it is very important that we now provide education technology so more and more people can graduate and get much better skill set or attainment that leads to much higher earning. And if you look at today's, what are the global educational forces? We are now living in a hyper-connected world of internet, cellular, satellite, and we are looking at lots of emergence of virtual learning, and also now mobile learning, as well as learning through some of the new medium that is coming as massive open online courses. And of course, there are new economies, and now we are competing in this flat world, as we say, and in that MIT students and IIT students or Harvard Business School students or Indian Institute of Management students are all competing together, and the emerging economies are China, India, and Brazil, and some say that China has surpassed American economy this year. So if you look at what are the online world of learning, it has changed quite a bit since last 20 years. If you look at it, the primary mode was to learn in the classroom, go to universities, but not anymore. So now what we are looking here is that we are looking at Amazon, we are looking at Wikipedia, YouTube, Google, Blackboard, lots of learning management system, and some adaptive systems as well, like intellADAPT, and of course learning through video conferencing or even through your what we call as the social media. So you can have Twitter learning, you can have learning through Facebook, etc. So how do we all make sense about the new frontier? So we started from multimedia toolkits, we went to the web tools, we went to the web platforms, we went to the learning management system, learning content management system. Right now we are in adaptive system, and I would also claim here or suggest that the new frontiers will be synaptic. That means brain-based learning models, where you will be directly connected through brain and some processes that I will describe. So in terms of the new frontier in education technology, lot has happened. You will be happy to note that mobile learning is everywhere. They say that there are more mobile phones in India than the toilets, essentially, because each person may have many mobile telephone numbers. Even those who are economically not well off also own mobile numbers and mobile phones, not even one, sometimes two. And so mobile learning has become very important. iPhone, Android, Blackberries, and all of that, Windows Media phones, augmented reality. So if I take a picture, can I tell you what that means? Let's say if I take a picture of a shopping market, and immediately the augmented reality tells me that this shop sells, let's say, different kinds of dog foods, and this one is a convenience store, and what are they offering and what prices are there. So I can augment that reality. So those are becoming very popular. Collaborative learning through wikis, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, that's the Twitter learning. And now there are lots of games, serious games that are being incorporated, strategy games, and those are now becoming education technology as well. There are virtual learning environments like Second Life where you can become an avatar and learn through different avatars, and that's going on. Immersive learning like VRML, I'm sure you have looked at the Google Glass. There are lots of Google Glass type of glasses. Oculus, there are different technology where you can see. And in fact, in wearable technologies are another model of immersive learning, virtual reality, head-mounted displays, teleoperated experiment. And of course, a lot of that is technology oriented, but now we are looking at what is the pedagogy, what is the adaptive learning. So we are looking at how can system respond to individual learning needs. That's what we call adaptive learning system. So we are going to look at that. And of course, now there's a lot of research on brain. So we are also calling that as the final frontier for education. So we are going to learn through that. So in last I would say 5 to 10 years, there are lots of companies which have grown and claiming themselves to be adaptive. intellADAPT is the company that I formulated. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's talk about Newton, Smart Sparrow, Adapt Courseware, Desire to Learn. Lots of companies, they're all claiming to be adaptive learning. So now there is a question to you as a consumer of adaptive learning. Can you really find what is truly adaptive learning system? So I thought today's discussion, what we will do, we'll focus on some of the ideas that you need to know in order to know what is a truly adaptive learning system. So let's talk about adaptive learning technologies. Adaptive content is there. If you just vary text, audio, and video, you can claim that you're adaptive because you are providing adaptive content. Item response, a set of questions leading to different results. So we can ask certain questions, even that could be called as an adaptive learning to some ways. There are predictive analytics. You can look at learner behavior a little bit, generate items based on the response, and what's called adaptive testing, and then provide them certain feedback. That is also one of the adaptive learning systems. Personalized analytics. You can also do some psychometric analysis, think about some cognitive models and say we can provide some kind of inductive and deductive models for learning. And now you can also do personalized personality type tests like Myers-Briggs. And so you are extroverted, you are introverted person. So this is kind of learning will happen. So now you see my point. My point here is there are so many different learning technologies now that you do not know really what is truly adaptive. So I thought let me start with the basics and say how the adaptive learning system evolved and how they are now becoming an adaptive educational system. Three areas that have contributed to this whole framework or for the adaptive learning system. Number one is brain and cognitive science. You need to understand how the brain behaves. Second one is cognitive psychology in terms of how brain processes information. And the third one, what we call is artificial intelligence. In the last, since 80s, artificial AI has played a lot of role in terms of creating expert system, creating neural network system, so that we can capture a behavior and provide you personalized learning or adaptive systems. And that adaptive system research has gone into now these three ideas of brain-based learning, cognitive psychology, and artificial intelligence. So let's first talk about the brain. So brain is made out of neurons. Neurons get connected through axons, and these long tail axons, as you see on your screen, and then they are connected through a synaptic cleft, and in that synaptic cleft there is a neurocognitive process, or what we call is a chemical electrical process happens. So there are some electrical signals pass, and as the electrical signal pass through, action potential is created, then that converts into long-term potential, and finally it gets into neural network. So if you are given a task, your brain is going to decipher it in terms of neurons and neural activities. Now there has been a lot of theories. So this is the second part. We said the brain, the cognitive psychology, and then artificial intelligence. So the second one is cognitive theories. So there are behaviorist model, cognitivist model, and of course multiple intelligence models, and what we call constructivist model. So a lot of literature in learning theories, starting from Vygotsky, John Dewey, John Piaget, Jean Piaget, Brenner, Randy Spiro, David Merrill. These are all different kinds of learning strategies or modalities, or what we sometimes call models. So there are over 300 models. So there's the cognitive psychology models. Now comes the artificial intelligence. So there we have symbolist approach, which we call expert system. There is a connectionist approach, and then statistical inference approach, which is Bayesian and Markovian. So now the question is that how can I combine brain on one end, and then cognitive psychology, and then artificial intelligence to create a truly adaptive system. So for that, I came up with 4 pillars of adaptive learning system based on my research, which I conducted at MIT as a former principal educational architect. And in that, these are the 4 criteria that you must look at if you are evaluating any adaptive learning system. Most of the adaptive systems are not adaptive, and that's why I call them pseudo-adaptive. So here is the criteria that I want to give you. One is that, does that system has pedagogical framework? So knowledge-based representation through concept maps and metadata, does it have a pedagogical framework so that you can differentiate between different learning pedagogy in terms of instructional design? Then the question is that system able to render content dynamically, or it's one size fits all? You know that one size fits all cannot be adaptive. So content sequencing engine for dynamic generation of revision, or assessing student trajectory and providing feedback with dynamic rendering of the content. Third, you got to have a quantitative learner analytics, so that you can understand whether learner is really reaching his learning objective or not. And finally, fourth thing, you have to have intelligent feedback and remediation. So if you look at, this is where we go from one size fits all approach to truly adaptive learning system, where you have content presented in a pedagogical framework. Then you are looking at learner analytics. There's a learning cube pedagogical framework. And then finally, you do the revision trajectory, so a student can improve on their performance. And going through these learning cycles, iterative improvement happens in the learner, which is very important. So let's look at one more time, 4 things: pedagogical framework, dynamic rendering of the content, quantitative analytics, and intelligent feedback for improvement or remediation. So if those 4 elements are not there in an adaptive system, you know that it's not truly adaptive system. Now that I've given you criteria, let me now present the pedagogical framework. So a pedagogical framework is the essence of an adaptive learning system. So in that, you have to use different learning media. We are talking about text, graphics, audio, video, animation, simulation. All of this text media has to be presented in the formulation of what we call as apprentice and incidental, inductive, deductive, and discovery different learning pedagogy. Apprentice is step-by-step learning. Incidental is based on a real-life scenario. Inductive is based on example. Deductive is based on learning by doing, and discovery is based on some of the game-based learning interactions. Now you can also do interactivity in terms of formative assessment to ask students whether they have really understood or learned it or not. If not, then they have to go back into learning cycle and learn. Then you put them into the 4th dimension, which is social learning. So now they can be
on a group team activity and doing discussion, chats, discourse, and presentation. So those are the four uh, dimensions of learning, which is modes, interactivity, models, and construction. So these are the learning models that I have synthesized out of 300 different learning models, put them together from simplest to complex. Apprentice is the mentor student step by step, incidental, inductive, deductive, and discovery. So now a student has lots of different framework that he can go through, and that's how we now connect back to the brain-based learning model. So media is enhancing the electrical signal to the neurons. Models are essentially using cognitive psychology to assess and understand the pedagogical framework and also learn from that cognitive process of apprentice, incidental, inductive, deductive, discovery. And then interactivity is essentially creating intelligent feedback, making sure that there's interactivity with formative assessment and summative assessment and real-time feedback. And then by connecting them to social construction or team learning, they are now strengthening their synaptic work. So first, electrical signal is enhanced, synaptic connections are made, synaptic network is formed for doing a task, and then finally synaptic network is strengthened. So this is what we call four-dimensional brain-based adaptive learning. So the way it works is that you have different learning strategies, you are given certain learning tasks, and then you are measured what learning is happened or not happened, and based on that you are rotated through different learning strategies until you get 100% competency. So this is a competency-based system to ensure that you get the competency. Okay, how does it work? We first present 5 different learning strategies as given here. Then we do learner analytics, and finally that analytics is given to the student as well as to the faculty. So now instructor can see this analytics and understand how their students are learning, so it becomes a very powerful tool. So this is what we call adaptive learning system. The new frontiers have to include some truly adaptive system, which we call adaptive 2.0, and at the same time what we want to look at is that how instructor can participate and be enhanced their teaching models so that the overall teacher, student, and parent, they're all becoming part of this whole educational system. So if you look at now, the new frontiers are also towards the massive open online courses, where on the mobile tablets you can provide massive courses and use the adaptive learning for individualized, personalized experience. And the way adaptive learning cycle would work for our higher course completion is that once you give the summative assessment, then you assess them, understand what trajectory they had taken through 5 different learning strategies, and then provide them real-time feedback to improve, and then they again go back and take the assessment. So through this learning cycle where the assessment and feedback, intelligent feedback, is given continuously, now you have a very powerful adaptive 2.0 model as the truly adaptive system. So a system that adapts to your neural network of learning and provides continuous intelligent feedback on your performance is the frontier of the adaptive learning. Now let's look at some of the a few new ideas that are coming through. One is we created a first adaptive moves. So massive open online courses generally are one size fits all. Now what we have done is that taken the genre of MOOCs, which is mostly dependent on the video, but now created adaptive learning coming out of the video, and you can see here there are different learning strategies, discovery, incidental, apprentice, etc. So now we are entering into the era of mobile learning. So in this case, you are looking here at different kinds of synaptic mobile learning phones, or what we call adaptive 2.0 mobile learning phones. So now here is a lot of interest because these are wearable computers. Now if you look at, I'm wearing this wearable watch, which is essentially not a watch but a computer, and of course I have this device also, which is a smartphone, and also I have this tablet, which is also is now mobile tablet, and I can use that. So if you look at the new frontiers, now going into native apps, which you can download from iTunes or Google
Play or any other app marketplace. And then you can also have a hybrid app. Hybrid app is the one which uses part of iPhone native app, but if you are not connected, it will still work, and we have developed many of them using truly adaptive learning system, which is called Adaptive 2.0. Now, if you look at the web apps, are essentially running through your web, but you can download and you can connect, just like you do web app for connecting to your banks. And so you essentially download a free app. So if you look at the frontiers of adaptive learning now is going towards adaptive mobile learning. And that's what we call AMOL, A-M-O-L, adaptive mobile learning. So now we are going to talk about that. This is an integrated app architecture, and this is AMOL tool set for assembling and automated deployment of the courses on smartphones and mobile devices. So we allow creation of adaptive apps that personalizes learning experience. And at the end, I will also show you the tool that you can use for the what I call is next generation of adaptive learning resources and tools, excuse me. Now, which provides 3 to 5 different presentations with the immediate intelligent feedback for the performance improvement. The same idea of pedagogical framework with 4 pillars, which we discussed earlier, where you have to have a pedagogical framework, you have to have a dynamic rendering, you have to have an assessment engine, and then finally a remediation engine. So all 4 are incorporated in adaptive mobile learning framework. And the way it works is that it becomes cloud-based adaptive mobile learning, and that's where you can power everything through the cloud as well as through this framework of single sign-on. I'm sure all of you have talked a lot about SAML and single sign-on. So that way all these apps can work through one single sign-on and provide you different kind of facilities. So example apps that have been created using AMOL architecture is there's a learning management system, AMOL, and then you have a test prep applications, some history application, voyages of the world, and also math and science. So if you look at, these are internal apps for running your system with adaptive mobile learning. But then also there are different apps that you have for test prep, for American history, what we call mobile lectures, and these are all produced through our collaboration with many publishers, and they're available on iPad and iPhone. So let's talk about test prep app. So let's say if you are preparing for GRE or you are preparing for any exam, we would have an app, and there are lots of apps out there, but most of them are one size fits all. We have an adaptive advantage, which is where Adaptive 2.0 comes in. Here is another app in US history, and you can take a look at those US history mobile app. And finally also voyages of the world history, where you can go to different parts of the world, understand where you are, like if you are standing in Delhi in India, what is all that is about, Ashoka dynasty, etc. And now you can really adaptively understand and learn different locations, different places, and people there. So if you look at the next new frontier that we are working on is brain-computer interface. So we essentially are now going to connect some of the what we call mind reader mobile phones. So again, mobile connected with wearable brain-computer interface, which essentially is based on electroencephalogram reading, or what we call listening to the chatter of the neurons. Once we understand how they are chattering with each other, now we can use our mobile devices to provide you real-time feedback. And this is not a dream. This is happening today. So if you look at, we do have Samsung has created a tablet which can connect through your mobile devices, as you are seeing on this picture. And if I concentrate and say, open my file, just by thinking, I can open my files and things like that. So these are brain-machine interface, brain-computer interface, and that is going to be the next new frontier in adaptive learning. But the case in the point here, or the main point that I want to make, is technology does not make you learn, is the pedagogy or the learning framework that makes you work. And that's the truly adaptive system, irrespective of new technology as it is coming through, augmented reality, virtual glasses, all of that, Google Glass, all of that will be only useful if there is a pedagogical framework of adaptive learning which I presented to you. So now in our model, what we are developing now is a neurofeedback. So once you are learning with 5 different learning strategies, we will have a neurofeedback on how you are learning with each strategy, and without any heuristics or statistical analytics, by looking at the brain waves and looking at which brain waves are resonating with your learning pedagogy, we'll be able to tell you this is the learning model that will be best for the given content. What we have found in our research, that students learn differently, but they also learn different content differently. So now in the last 15 minutes or so, I want to take you through how do you create this next generation or new frontier of adaptive learning using a simple tool called adaptive mobile learning. So this tool is available. You can subscribe to it from intellADAPT website, and what it will allow you to do, you can log in and obviously you can create your username password. As you subscribe to it, you will be given username password. Then you have now way to look at a concept map. So this is the conceptual framework. You take all your content that you want to create an adaptive mobile app or adaptive mobile online program. Then you take all those concepts and create concept bin, and you also have concept connectivity. So now we understand concept map and concept tree. Once you have the concept tree in place, now we can go to a mole front page which will be available to you on your mobile devices, on your tablet, no problem. It will work through your Android tablets, or it could work through your iPad tablets as I'm showing you here. And so you can go to this Amol website and you will have this interface. I'm going to show you a screenshot so that we do not get into trouble with any wireless systems. So now here if we look at, we have a dashboard which will, with the avatar, you will know how to use the system, so you do not have to read manual. Listen to the avatar, and here are all the apps that you need. It is a quiz builder, then you have a course builder, and then you have a adaptive mobile learning platform, and also you have media authoring engine, create course. So you will start with the create course. So here is your first screen about create course. You can immediately write the name, my course, and you can write 101 number, give some description, and then you can say choose the free option, or you can choose to set up a price that you want to sell. And again, any course that you produce using a mole can be converted into an app and can be distributed through the app store. So now in this case, iDesigner is our instructional design tool, and there you can see you add a objective, because every course has to have a learning objective. So once you add an objective, then you are given type the objective for the course. With that, now you can see immediately in your organizational tool iDesigner, you have concept. Now for this objective, you will have set of concepts. So just like what we did here, in the beginning, you have all these objectives and they are connected with the concept. So now we are building for each objective what are the concepts. So I'm going to add concepts. Once I add the concept, I have concept C1A, C1B, as simple as that. Just click create your organization. Now in this case, as you created the organization, you can also create sub-concepts. So it's objective, concepts, and sub-concepts. So once you go into the sub-concept tool, then you can also create add learning pathways. This is where learning strategies, the 5 learning strategies that I described: apprentice learning, incidental learning, inductive learning, and deductive learning. So here is a very simple tool. Again, you can access it through your tablet, sitting anywhere. You can now access it through the Wi-Fi and also cellular phone, and you are in business. So now you will choose the sub-concept and then choose what learning strategy you want to choose, like apprentice, incidental, etc. So I choose apprentice. So apprentice shows up here. Now, if you open that apprentice, then you are given this pedagogical framework. And this is where most of the adaptive learning systems fail, because they do not have pedagogical framework. So in this framework, now you can see you have description, example, exposition, and procedure. Very simple. Now you know what to do with the content. So you bring the content. Let's say you want to teach anything that you want to teach to the world. Let's say I want to teach physics. So, and I want to teach laws of motion. So if I say Newton's laws of motion, so I say description of motion, example of Newton's laws, exposition of the Newton's laws, and then I can give them a procedure how to use Newton's law in apprentice. Now I use the incidental. So in incidental I can do very quickly. I can now add incidental a real life scenario, someone running like an Olympic race, and give them example of that to find velocity and acceleration. So now here is a good example. If you want to teach someone a new subject matter, you just find out what concept. Now I can teach it in many different ways. So I've added 3 different models. So the incidental pathway, deductive pathway, and apprentice. Now that I've added that, all I have to do is upload the all these assets. Now when you are uploading, these are uploading on our server and from your machine. So let's say if you have all these assets in Dropbox, you can connect from Dropbox and add to this, and this will be then on our server, because all these interactivity will run through our Adaptive 2.0 server. So now if you look at here, we can see that we have to add a quiz, because assessment is very important part of learning process. So now we are going to do add a quiz. So let's say for concept C1, we want to add a quiz. So we click on the concept, and then quiz becomes available on the left hand side bar. You click on the quiz. Now you are into the quiz builder. Here is very simple way to build your quiz. You say quiz for C1, and you are given various options: quiz type, standard quiz. There are many options. You can do true false, multiple choice, short answers, essays. All of that can be done. So now in this case, best score, do you want to do randomization? Do you have a group of random questions? So you upload them. And you can see the quiz builder is very simple. This is for the multiple choice. You identify the subconcept, then you choose a quiz type, enter the question, enter the choices, click on the correct answer. And this is all interface available on your device, on your laptop or on your desktop or even tablet. Now once you create this quiz, or if you already have quiz, then you can upload the quiz, given that we provide you a particular framework. Now the quiz is added. You can see that now I have a concept C1 and subconcept C1A. C1A is presented in 3 different models. Now I can click on the view course. So here is an icon for view course. I will click on that, and then that's where I will see the course that I have generated. So as simple as that, we are able to use this adaptive mobile learning. And then once we have created that, these apps are going to go online, or they can be downloaded on your Android or your iPad. So I want to make sure that I have time to answer some of your questions. So I'm going to conclude here. So let's say what we are looking here is that for creative teaching and learning, which will be the central for the next generation of technology-enabled learning. So we are essentially creating now highly adaptive interface, and that adaptive interface is going to be based on individual learning preferences, accelerate learning process, and immediate feedback and self-improvement will be the key factors in higher creative learning engagement. So you can see that these systems work very well. And so in the given time, let me connect you to a, let's see, we are going to show you a short course in the physics. So this is going to be, this was funded by National Science Foundation. So I will show you how the tool that you use is able to generate very highly sophisticated course with 5 different learning strategies. So this will take another 10 minutes, and then I'll open it for discussion with you. So I'm entering here as your teacher. So nish@alum.mit.edu. I put my password and I'm in. Once I go in, I have adaptive learning physics course, which was generated using this adaptive mobile learning, adaptive 2.0 technology that I just presented to you. So in this case, you can see how the outcome comes. So here is kinematics, pre-test, kinematics, and all of that. I go back to adaptive physics course. Here it is. So now you can see I have a professor corner. I can make some announcement. I have a private messaging, assignments, discussions, resources, reports, and gradebook. Everything is there. So now let's see if I go to the proceed to the course. Before I go to proceed to the course, I need to do certain things. So let me go back to learning strategies test. I'm going to take this test very quickly. So here is my test, and this is just yes and no. So now you can declare how you think you learn. So here it is, and then I'm going to submit this. As I submit this, then it says I'm apprentice learner. Continue to retest. So I'm now in the course. I click on the course, and then once I'm in the course, I say, okay, I have to start with apprentice, so I go to apprentice. Now, since I was in this course earlier, it has taken me to incidental where I left the course, but if you are first timer, it will take you to the learning strategy that you chose. So let's see. Now, we were talking about equation of motion. So let's just look at that as an example, how these 5 different learning strategies work. So you can see here that we can do equations of motion. So in this, we are looking at apprentice model. So this is all text-based, and you can understand all the text-based equation of motion understanding, and that loads up and then provides you step-by-step instructions. And let me show you different learning strategies. So now if I go to incidental, then the same sub-concept of equation of motion is presented in a scenario model. So here is the real life scenario, and you can see that this video is presented, and that video is going to provide you a real life scenario. So now you can see the real life scenario is given, and based on that, now we can also show examples of problems that you have to solve using this 100-meter dash on the velocity. That's one model. Then we go from incidental to, let's say, inductive model, and I'm just showing you this model so you understand how different learning strategy, pedagogy works, which is very important. So in this case, we show them lots of examples, and that gives you an idea how you can learn from that. And then let's look at deductive learning model. So in this case, you have again pedagogy wise learning by doing. So in this case, the same problems are presented in a segment. So you do the first segment. So I got that right. Now I'm going to go to the next one. So I can go down. And so by interactively, I can build my competency in this deductive learning model. So now let's go to the discovery model. So in this case, the discovery model is all based on the games. So you can see here is that you are given a crossword puzzle. I'm sure you all have played a lot of Scrabble and things like that. So in this case, you have drag and drop. Now you can do drag and drop and see how you can complete this kind of model. And again, only those who are applicable are going to stick here. So with that model, now you are able to understand and learn. So here it is. I build one. I have to build the entire game here, and then no matter what learning strategy I come from, I have to take a quiz. So you saw that the adaptive mobile learning simple interface to organize this content and course is now very powerful course for me to prepare for AP physics. And AP exams are very important if you really want to get to good school. And we have short answers, so I'm going to take one short answer. And I'm just randomly putting some answers here in order to show how the system would react to it. I think I may have missed some of them, so let's put them all. And if you do not finish all of them, the system will ask you to complete that. So these are short answer and multiple choice. And that's how, if you look at AP exams are given. So now it really prepares you exactly the way you would be facing questions in an AP exam. So that's a very good idea for you to prepare. And the important thing what you will see as I finish this quiz is that based on my response, a lot of analytics is generated. As I said, the second part of the pillar is generate Third part of the pillar is to generate analytics. And then you will see the fourth part of the fourth pillar of truly adaptive system is to provide me a revision so that I can improve my competency. Just not leave it saying that, hey, you learn this way and do whatever you want. Here we give a complete learning cycle. So now we click on that. So as you click on that, now you are given, I got 3 out of 22 questions. So now I've been given a feedback by the avatar. So now with that revision, now you see that my performance over a number of quizzes that I've taken. This is my quiz trajectory. This is learning strategies that I've used. This is my correlation. And I thought I'm apprentice, but looks like my correlation is in deductive. So I'm wasting my time by apprentice. I should be focusing on that. So if you look at content viewed, time on the segment, time on the task, everything is given. And I'm also, my teacher is also given faculty the data so that they can help me out and only they can see my data, no one else. So now the fourth pillar, remediation. So here is the revision. A short course is created just for me so that I can improve my trajectory. Now I can go to two-dimensional motion and you can see how much feedback is given to me to improve. And all of this is generated with the AMOL adaptive toolkit that I showed you earlier. Simple organization, uploading content, and automating the entire creation of the very highly sophisticated, pedagogically strong learning course. And then once I'm ready, I can retake the quiz. And this is how I'm going to improve my competency. So I can go back to the quiz or I can go back to the course. Either way, I can go back. And once I go back to the course, adaptive course, I go back to the adaptive course. So what you will see that it has sent me back to apprentice because in discovery I did not do well. So now I'm back to apprentice where I'm going to learn. And again, because I've seen my correlation, I say I do well in deductive. So I'm going to go and choose that deductive because now I'm aware of what learning strategies works best for me. So here is my deductive learning. And hopefully I can get 100% competency now through this system. So let me do another, provide you conclusion is that with a very simple idea that you can have pedagogy and technology together, and with the tool that we have developed here, adaptive mobile learning tool, you have the complete control on how you design and develop your courses, and you can create the next generation of adaptive learning system with our adaptive 2.0 engine and adaptive mobile. And the greatest thing is that all your courses now can be on as an adaptive apps. So with apps, you can create course, you can market your course, and we will help you do that. So I want to thank you all for your time. And now let me open it for questions, any questions that you may have. All right. So let me go to the questions. The Common Core Learning, we will be able to now provide this adaptive learning interface. So a student can go through their own inquiry, their own research, collecting their data, and that really dovetails very well with the Common Core, because Common Core technology essentially is emphasizing this kind of questions and answer sessions. So that's an important thing. So in conclusion, let me say that in today's time, adaptive learning is seeing a new renaissance or new creation of the tools, technologies, augmented realities, brain-based learning, synaptic learning, adaptive 2.0 learning. So I would suggest is that if you are in the process of acquiring any adaptive learning platform, please make sure that you look for the 4 features: pedagogical framework, dynamic rendering of the content, providing an assessment engine to diagnose what learning strategy is there. Pedagogical framework will make sure that you have instructional design which is differentiated in multiple learning ways, learning pathways, and then the diagnostic will make sure that you are able to diagnose which learning strategy works best for the learner. And 5, do not leave the learners hanging. Provide them a revision trajectory so that they can reach the maximum competency in the shortest amount of time. And thank you for participating in this webinar. And please get in touch with me if you have any questions. My email is nish at, I will put my contact here. So nish@intellADAPT.com. And I'm the president and CEO. You can also reach me on my cell phone, 617-642-1767. And let's join this revolution of next frontier in adaptive learning systems. Thank you.